Welcome back, everybody. I hope that you were refreshed, nurtured, maybe provoked, or felt that something was stirred in you because of this last Sunday's service. It was tremendous. It was the day of Pentecost, the tongues of fire. And in my sermon, as you might recall, I spoke of the gift of the Holy Spirit, which at times feels a bit like an intrusion. We are shaken, we are left speechless, we are disoriented, and the Spirit, thankfully, as our advocate, as a comforter and sustainer, intercedes for us. What I spoke of specifically, of course, were moments where we lack words. And I joked, of course, because here I am giving you more of my words, and I do that consistently and regularly, but I also know there are times in my life, profound moments, where I'm left speechless. And that's where the Spirit moves and pleads my case or speaks to me or speaks on my behalf. And I thought about what language the Spirit speaks. How old is this language? Where is it located? Is it something that I can learn from a book? Is it something that I can practice? Yes and no. For me, the language of Spirit is the language of primal relationship. It's the origin of language. It's the language of language. Why do we speak at all? In order to address, to communicate welcome to another person. That is a fundamental belief of mine. It's a statement of my theology, if I were asked to give one, that our language is first and foremost an address. We are responding to original call, and we are saying, here we are, right? Like the prophet Isaiah, hear in me, God, Hineni in Hebrew. It also is welcome. Your call to me is welcomed by me, because that is the law that I suggested, the law of the other, the holy other, the person that is in need, the person that calls to us and asks us, will you provide a safe space for me? Will you be a refuge for me? Will you care for me? Will you acknowledge my humanity, my divinity? Will you love me? Will you know me and still love me even after you know me and you're aware of the things that I've done or thought? These are questions, as you might already guess, affect all of us. We are all in the position of the other at a different time and place. There's a dynamic, and all we can really do is respond to the other, but we know that we are also the other that calls to another other, if you will. The concept of relationality that is to some extent asymmetrical, and by that what I mean is the call to us that the Spirit issues, that the Spirit brings. Yes, there's a sense in which we experience it as bigger than us, as from on high. But there's also a sense in which it's easily unnoticed. We can walk right by it, we can tune it out, so it can be missed very easily. And in that sense, right, it's a call from below. So the Spirit and us, if you will, are in a kind of inherently asymmetrical relationship, just as the call of any other would be for us, right? Something commands our attention, and it's not a simple equivalence, but it is a deep and abiding relationship. It is the origin of intersubjective life, of interpersonal life, of communal life. It's the origin of the church, and that's why I believe that the birth of the church is the Spirit of Pentecost, is the day of Pentecost, because the languages that we speak in the sense of formal systems are not going to create barriers for that deep connection and communication that we all so desperately need at different times in our life. Now, I talked about how difficult it is as well to keep ourselves open to the Spirit, because the Spirit will move us in directions we don't necessarily want to go. We may be asked to risk things, and that can be difficult. I think fundamentally, from an evolutionary perspective, we are frightened by our deep vulnerability. Being open and exposed is just that. It's being open and exposed, right? And I don't think anybody likes to be in that place for very long, if at all. And yet, the spiritual life requires that we always be attuned and open to the call of the other. How do we do that? How can we hear that old, deep language that birthed us? Remember, we're created in and through relationship. How can we be attuned to that language? Well, part of it is gathering together on Sundays. Part of it is calling people, reaching out, engaging in the spiritual practices that have been gifted to us, from centering prayer to ecstatic dance to praying the Psalms. Maybe you listen to a podcast or you go for walks in nature. Whatever it is, anything that attunes you to that voice that can either be easily missed or is so loud or so vast that it can be overwhelming, anything that attunes you to that spirit, I believe, is a spiritual practice. And so I commend whatever your spiritual practice is, so long as it moves you in that direction of greater openness and vulnerability. Know that you're not alone. As frightening as it is to be exposed, to be vulnerable, you are always accompanied by God. And that's why we say at the beginning and end of our service, God is with us wherever we are, at all times and in all places. So rest assured of that truth, and go this week with confidence and excitement about your opportunities to hear and respond to the voice of Spirit. Thanks for joining me this week. I look forward to seeing you next week.